Hello and welcome to today's webinar on maximizing your search results on AmericanAncestors.org. My name is Ginevra Morse, the Online Education Coordinator at the New England Historic Genealogical Society. I'll be moderating today's event. This is the first part of a two-part webinar series. If you haven't already signed up for the second part, which will be held on December 18th, look for a registration link in your follow-up email after today's event. Giving today's presentation is Andy Hanson-Dvoracek, Web Content Coordinator at NEHGS. Andy will be presenting for about 40 minutes. He'll give a quick overview of what types of databases we have on AmericanAncestors.org. He'll show you the ins and outs of executing a search, how to view your search results, and how to manage those records. Throughout his presentation, Andy will share with you some important search tips and techniques. And finally, he'll give you a sneak peek at what topics he'll cover in Part 2. At any time during the presentation, please go ahead and type your questions into the question panel at the right of your screen. We'll answer as many of those as we can in the last 10 to 15 minutes of the session. As a reminder, we are recording this event and we'll post the video to our website in the next couple of days. All right, so without further ado, take it away, Andy.
Thank you, Ginevra, and I would like to thank all of you for joining us this afternoon for this webinar. So the first order of business is to get to any of our database results. First, you must be logged into our site, either through the guest user program or as a full member. So the first time that you visit AmericanAncestors.org, the website will look something like this. If you were registered as a guest user or as an active member, you can log in using this link right here. And this link will be at the top of every page on the site. If you do not have an account yet, you can sign up for our guest user program also at the top of every page. That will take you to a registration page where you're able to see more about our guest user program. When you sign up for this program, it does work in perpetuity, and it gives you access to 13 regular databases that are listed here, as well as a collection of our most recently updated and new databases, and that can be found, and more information of that can be found at this page. So once you've logged in, the top of the page will look a little different. Rather than a login link, your display name will appear, and that will be a link that will take you to your user profile, and which is something that we'll talk about a little bit more in the second part of this webinar. So now that we're logged in, what sort of resources do we have access to? So the resources we have here at AmericanAncestors.org includes over 500 online databases, and this comprises about 3,000 volumes of digitized records, and that makes up over 125 million records, with more being added and revised every single week. Now, among these collections, we have vital records, town records, diaries, military records, voter lists, maps, a lot more. But some of the things that make our collection really special are a collection of journals and periodicals from genealogical societies throughout New England, such as our own New England Historic and Genealogical Register, as well as the New York Genealogical and Biographical Record. And we also sponsor various study projects, the most famous of which right now is Robert Anderson's Great Migration Study Project, which compiles genealogical sketches of every person who immigrated to New England between 1620 and 1640, as well as our new Early New England Families Project, which continues that work further into the 17th century. Now, we are the New England Historic Genealogical Society, having been based in Boston since 1845. Our holdings are national in scope, but our focus is the 6 New England states, as well as major migration routes out of the region, such as New York, down into the Mid-Atlantic, and into the Ohio River Valley. So to find out more about the databases that we have, from the home page, you can view a list of all of our databases by clicking on All Databases just below the search box. This will bring you to a full alphabetical list of the databases, so you can find them by letter using these links over here, or you can use the find functionality of your browser, usually Control F, to search for a particular place name or keyword that would be in the name of the databases. Another way that you can investigate our databases is by going to our databases page, which you can get to by clicking on this leafy branch here. Now on the databases page, we have links to our most popular databases, information about our latest databases, some information about some external databases, which are databases that are not maintained by NEHGS, but you would have access to at home as a member. That's another thing that we'll talk about in the second part of this seminar. For the guest user program, we have a list of which databases are currently available for free. And the most powerful tool that we have here is the databases catalog, which you can go to by clicking again on the leafy branch. This page allows you to search the databases themselves by collection category or geographically. So in this example, I've done a search for vital record databases. So by selecting that category, I have a selection of what databases we have that are comprised of vital records, and I can click on Next or Show All to see more of those records. And now by clicking on an individual databases, I'm just going to pick the first one, the American Canadian Genealogical Society Index. That will bring up information about that database specifically, particularly how it was assembled, some citation information, and search tips to get the most out of searches of this particular database. We have a lot of different databases, as I mentioned earlier, containing a lot of different kinds of information. And so learning more about each specific database when it is of interest to you will really help you get the most out of your search results. So we've learned, now that we've talked a little bit about the databases we have available, let's do a search. Let's dive right in. And the easiest way to do that is right from the home page using this keyword box. It does a quick keyword search, which searches every part of a record, and it's going to do it across all of the databases. This is going to be a very wide, comprehensive search. So in this case, I'm going to be searching for a guy who I have done a little bit of research on. His name is Percy Burrell. So we've done that search, and I've gotten 205 results. That sounds great, but it's a very wide search. And as I mentioned before, it searches not just the names in a record, but really every part of it. It looks like these first couple records I've gotten aren't particularly relevant. And if I were to examine this first record further for Grace Cram, I'll see that it's just found the names Percy and Burrell both in the record, not next to each other, and certainly not referring to the same person. So in this case, it's this third record that looks like it's going to be the first relevant one to my research. And now I've chosen not a particularly common name. And so if you were to choose someone who's more, if you're going to do a Sean Jones or something along those lines, it's possible that a keyword search like this would return millions of results. So let's look at some ways to drill down a little bit and refine these searches. Now by clicking on that Refine Search button in the upper right-hand corner, which has since turned into a Hide Advanced button, we come to our Advanced Criteria page. And this offers a lot of ways for us to refine our searches. You can get to this page directly from our home page as well, or any page on the website, by clicking the search link in the header. So as opposed to the keyword search that we did, which searched across an entire record, these other fields search records in particular ways. The first row is relatively self-explanatory. We have a first name and last name field. And those were those bold-faced portions of the records when we were on our results page. The year range is generally going to be searching a particular year that each record is associated with. But this is the first point in which we can run into a little bit of trouble, because not all of our databases, particularly ones that are organized already by chronology, will have their years indexed, as well as going back to the journals and periodicals that we have. Those will be indexed by publication year rather than content year. So for example, if we have an article about the foundation of Providence Colony published in 1970, it would be associated with 1970 rather than earlier. The second row allows us to narrow down the kinds of results that you're going to see. The first menu is category, and each database is assigned a particular category depending on the sorts of records that are contained in it. And using this, you can search a variety of different databases that all contain the same sorts of records. On the other side, we have the record type menu. Now, much like the category menu, it allows you to group similar sorts of records together, but whereas each database is assigned a single category, each database can contain many types of records. So our most popular database, the Massachusetts Vital Records, that only has one category, Vital Records, but it contains at least 3 different types of records: births, deaths, and marriages. But right in the middle we have the most powerful menu, and the database menu allows you to select specific databases to search. Now the 3 menus in this row are all responsive. So if I were to select something in category, like Vital Records, the databases menu would refresh so that only Vital Records databases are available in that menu. You can do the same thing with record type. So it's easy to accidentally back yourself into a corner and not see databases that you're interested in. And so if it seems like something isn't appearing, you can clear out your entire search by using this new search button. The databases menu also allows you to narrow it to your favorites, which is again a user profile feature that we'll talk about in the second part of this seminar. And if you're a part of our guest user account, you can narrow it down to only those that are currently freely available to you. So the third row organizes things by geography, starting with country, moving on down the taxonomy from there. Once you select a country, the second drop-down will fill in with the appropriate states, provinces, or counties for that country. And then in this third menu, you can fill in the rest of the geographic information that you're interested in. Now, for the case of the United States, which I imagine will be a large portion of the research that you're doing, we're actually dealing with 4 separate layers of geography in using 3 fields. Now normally this isn't too much of a problem, but it can create some confusion if we have a city and county that share a name. And the closest example would be Worcester here in Massachusetts. So if I were to put in United States, Massachusetts, Worcester, that's actually going to search the entirety of the county of Worcester. So if I want to narrow it down further, I need to put in United States, Massachusetts, Worcester, comma, Worcester. And that will narrow my results down just to City of Worcester. So my first tip, now that we've done a little bit of searching, gotten to know our way around our advanced search criteria, is you should really start wide and then get narrower. This is something specifically to get the most out of AmericanAncestors.org, because a lot of the other genealogical sites that I imagine that many of you have used intentionally introduce a lot of fuzziness into their search. They've made a decision that it's less frustrating for a researcher if they get some results back which are likely to be irrelevant than if they get nothing back at all. And I know from hearing responses from many of you that that's not the case. Oftentimes with these sites it seems like you can smash your head into the keyboard a couple times and still get something to return. So here on our site, we trust what you've put in when it comes to our search. And we don't introduce any fuzziness unless you tell us to, which is something we'll be getting to later on in the second part of the seminar. And so you will get fewer results, but those results will be more relevant to your research. And our danger with that is that it's easy to narrow it too much and not find the results that you're looking for. Especially because when you come to this field, I mean, there are 11 fields here. And if you've approached research any way along the lines that I have, when you come to a new resource, you want to pick up right where you left off. So the most intuitive way would be to fill in as many of these fields as possible. But that's where the danger comes in, because you could be excluding those very results that you're looking for, especially if you're depending on things like family lore, for instance. I actually have a story from my own family history research. And so this involves the other side of my family, and so that side isn't from New England, it's from Wisconsin. Many of you probably have heard of it. There are lots of cows there. It is in a state of mourning and woe right now. You may have heard the Packers are having some injury difficulties. But I think he's going to be back for next week. Nah. But we're not from Green Bay. We're actually from the other side of the state in Pierce County, which is a predominantly Scandinavian farming community right on the border with Minnesota. And so when I was doing my family history research and starting to explore that side of the family, two places kept coming up. The first place was Ellsworth. It's the county seat. It's the closest city, you could say, to where my grandparents grew up. And it's also the cheese curd capital. They don't say what it is the cheese curd capital of. I would presume Wisconsin, and which I think really it's just modesty that keeps it from being in the running from being the cheese curd capital of the world. But if you were to ask my grandparents, well, my grandfather specifically, where he was born, he would have said Beldenville, which was the closest post office to the farm. And as you can see from this picture, it's really a wide spot in the road. There's not a post office then anymore. You can sort of see two buildings here from Google Maps. Last I checked, they were both bars. So these were the two geographic areas that I searched, Ellsworth, Beldenville, and I could find my grandfather's family going back all the way back to when we emigrated from Norway. But I couldn't find any of my grandmother's family, and it was driving me up the wall, where it turns out that the farm that she grew up on was right on the line between Ellsworth and the township to the north, Martell. There's a picture of my grandmother's family farm. That's where the line is, which is about a quarter-mile south of where the road is. And so I had no idea that that's where her family's records were. So if I had searched the entire county at once, rather than concentrating on these two cities that I got from family lore, I would have saved myself a lot of heartache, a lot of time in musty rural Wisconsin courthouses, and been able to continue on my research. Another tip to help you get the most out of your search results is, as I'd mentioned before when we were talking about our database catalog, we have a lot of different kinds of data. And so each database is accompanied by search tips. They'll help you get the most out of each of them. So after you've done your wide searches, and it seems like there's a particular database that's going to hold a lot of information for you, I would encourage you to either find it through the database catalog or simply selecting it from the database menu on the advanced criteria, because if there are search tips for it, they will appear between that geographic row and the keyword field. In this case, I've selected the Beekman patent as one of the original land grants that largely makes up a lot of what's now Dutchess County, New York. And this was digitized from a series of books. And so if you're chasing down a citation, it's helpful to be able to search by volume or by page number, as well as we have these search tips. So since the entire land grant was from 1 year, these records aren't indexed by year. So you must leave the year fields blank, otherwise you're going to accidentally narrow out all of your results. Similarly, because they're all in the same place, they're not indexed geographically either. In addition to these sorts of, I hesitate to call them traps, but you also have additional features from for some of the databases. For instance, entering a last name and typing the word featured into the keywords field allows you to find more extensive family sketches. So now we've done a search. Let's take a look at some results again. So for this search, rather than doing a keyword search, which as we saw was very wide, I'm going to do a search for John Sturgis, and I'm going to narrow it down between 1850 and 1950. Now, if you haven't logged in, your results page is going to look something like this. You'll be able to see the databases that each of these records are associated with, but you'll be invited to become a member in order to see the records. So if you see something like this, it means you're not logged in. So go to the top of the screen and log in. Additionally, if you're a guest user of ours and there's information in a database that you do not currently have free access to, they will also appear this way as well. So now I've logged in, and I've got 44 results. That's looking pretty good. So you can see that the criteria that I put in is still visible here, so that I can remember what my search was, as well as the keyword search is still there to be typed in. And I can return to that same search by clicking this button here, Refine Search. I can clear out everything by using New Search. Or if I've found a lot of information, and something we'll be talking about in Part 2, I can save the search. Now there are 3 different ways that results come back. Most of them are going to be part of the database results. These are a lot of these databases that we've been talking about before. There's also a tab that brings back results just from the SSDI, the Social Security Death Index, as well as this third tab searches across the entire AmericanAncestors.org site. We have a lot of resources. We have our daily genealogist blog, the Ask a Genealogist, as well as a large collection of articles that aren't in these individual databases but can be found in this tab. We can go back and in each of these records we have a boldface type, which is going to show what's in the name fields, an indication of the record type and which database, as well as the year that these are the things that the database is searching for. I can also filter out these results without having to perform another search by using these category and database facets on the left. So in this instance, I'm going to filter by journals and periodicals. Now, without performing another search, I'm only seeing journals and periodicals. Again, as I had mentioned before, with these journals, they're indexed by publication year, and you can see that by the pub year indicated in parentheses below. And after I've narrowed down by category, I can still also narrow down by databases in this area. But I've looked at these journals and periodicals. They don't have the record that I'm looking for, and so to get back to my original set of results, I just click on the big red X, and that'll take me back to the full complement of results. So we've done a search, we've filtered out some records, and we've got one that seems like it's a hit. So let's go look at it. I've hit the red X, so I've gotten back to all of my search results. This one looks good, so I'm going to click on View. And that brings up a database image, an actual record. We've made it. There are lots of ways to navigate around this page once you've gotten here. This previous hit and next hit allows you to go back and forth within the search results of the last search that you performed. We can go back to all of our search results by clicking View All Results. If we want to jump right back to the Advanced Criteria page to do a different search, we can do that with Refine Search. As well as if we found something in this database and we want to explore further. This is particularly useful when reading genealogies that will have sketches that go over multiple pages. We can navigate by volume. We can jump directly to a page using this field, or we can page back and forth using this previous and this next link. So to differentiate it, these two links, this previous and next, pages back or moves back and forth between your search results, whereas this previous and next, as well as this one duplicated down here, pages back and forth within the database itself. We have three separate image viewers with varying capabilities and to view database images. Our default is our Silverlight viewer. It does require an external download from called Microsoft Silverlight, but it has the most features of our three image viewers. You can zoom in and out. You can rotate an image. You can pan around the image once you've zoomed in. You can print a record as well as save it directly to your hard drive using these buttons. And specifically to the Silverlight viewer, once you've zoomed in, you can print specifically that view that you've zoomed into or the entire image, as well as you can do the same saving. The drawbacks to the Silverlight viewer, though, is that it doesn't work on all computers that are out there, and particularly it doesn't work on phones or tablets. We do have information at americanancestors.org/help that will tell you more about what computers are compatible with Silverlight. But if your machine doesn't run Silverlight, then you can use our second image viewer, which is our JavaScript viewer. You can see it looks a little bit different. It doesn't have that white border around it, but it still has a lot of the same features. You can still zoom in and out and pan around once you've zoomed in. You can still print and save, but you're not able to zoom into a particular view and print or save that view. It's always the entirety of the image. Additionally, you aren't able to rotate, although I believe we've actually obviated much of the need to rotate many of the images. Our third viewer is our most basic viewer. This loads the database image just as though it was any other image on a web page. It is the most reliable. It works on any computer that you will have been able to get to this page. The basic viewer will work, as well as you can still print or download the image, but you aren't able to zoom and pan in for greater legibility. Dependent on how you do your research, you may want to print these records to organize them. You may want to save them and put them into a particular genealogical software program, or you might want to save them as PDFs. Now, the default option for saving images is JPEGs, And so if you click that floppy disk icon that's in the lower right-hand corner of the JavaScript and Silverlight viewers, and on the lower left of the basic viewer, you'll download a JPEG onto your computer into your downloads folder. So if you want to save it as a PDF instead, actually click on the printer icon to bring up the print dialog. And dependent on the combination of web browser and operating system you use, there will be an option to save the record as a PDF instead. So it's not just the database image that we've got once we've gotten to a particular record page. Below the database image, we have the grid view of everything that is visible on this particular page of the database. And so we have the names, years, locations. This is all the data that the search engine is actually searching, as well as it can be a more legible way of reading the information that's notated. Although, as you can see on the record type above, it's not necessarily going to be all the information that's included in the record type, just what those 11 fields on our advanced criteria page would be looking for. And oftentimes this grid view, there's a lot of names on that page of vital records. And so the very bottom, you can page around the grid view as well. So this, next, and previous will, at the very bottom of the page, will page back and forth in the grid view and won't reload the page. And so below the grid view we have, again, information about how the database was assembled, any notes about it, such as amended records, and citation information at the bottom. And citation information isn't just for if you're planning on publishing, although future generations will thank you if you write down your research. And so that brings me to one last tip. And that is, particularly if you're printing, especially if you're printing in zoomed views using our Silverlight viewer, use that citation information and write it on the back or in the margins. Every time I've been doing research and I said, I will remember where I got this, it was a lie I told directly to myself. It was very inconsiderate. In addition, you can use it as a research log so that you don't end up tracing your own footsteps over and over again. The citation information is really helpful, and just as much as you should take advantage of our search results, you should take advantage of that as well. So to recap these first steps into searching AmericanAncestors.org, I would again remind you to start wide and to get narrower. Because you don't want to be necessarily excluding yourself from that one record that you need to get around your brick wall. Follow the database search tips so that you're able to get the most out of each and every database that we have. Save the images in the way that best fits with your research, so that you can build upon it and share it and share your own family history stories, and take advantage of that citation information just to maintain your own sanity, as well as to help foster collaboration and to bring more people into your project. So the second part of this webinar will be on December 18th. If you haven't already registered for it, you'll be getting a follow-up email after this. And some of the information that we're going to be talking about there is using some of those user profile pages. For instance, saving searches that have been useful, saving your favorite databases, re-expanding our searches using wildcards, as well as getting the most out of our collections of journals and periodicals. And so I hope that you all will join us then.
Thank you, Andy, for your presentation. So now we're going to tackle your questions. If you have a question for Andy about our databases, our search features, or the website in general, please type it in the question field at the right of your screen. And I know a lot of you have already been entering in your questions. So we have one. Does the program take Boolean searches? Andy?
Yes. Boolean searches, there are a number of operators that you can use in the keywords field as well as the name fields. I'm not actually sure right off the top of my head about Booleans. A lot of those wildcards are things that we'll be discussing in in the second part of our of the webinar, but I'm actually not sure about the Boolean keywords, and so we'll be making a post about that probably in the Weekly Genealogist or some such announcement.
That's fine. Someone did ask about using asterisks. So that is a wildcard, and that is something that we're going to be using, or that we're going to be discussing in the second part. So definitely stay tuned for that. Someone also asks about SoundX. What is SoundX? That's actually something that we're also going to be talking about in the second part. What about, let's see, another good question. Is Silverlight operable on Macs?
Yes, Silverlight is operable on Macs. I believe that you must be running Firefox or Safari in order to use Silverlight on a Mac. It doesn't work in, or it works to an extent, but not in a terribly supported way on Google Chrome. But yes, you can use Silverlight on a Mac. I also, to go back, I do have information about the Boolean keywords, and we do accept them in the keywords field. But you do have to type them out. You can't use some shorthand like 2 pipes or 2 ampersands. It must be the word and, or, and not. I don't know if XOR, XAND, and those sorts of more complicated Booleans are supported, but the English words and, or, and not are, and that's in the keywords field.
Great. And someone, back to Silverlight, someone's asking if they can download that from our site or if they have to go to Microsoft.
No, it's Microsoft.com/get-silverlight, I believe is the URL. That's the one trusted source to get it, as well as that way you'll always be getting the most recent version.
Great. Someone asks, why save an image as a PDF instead of a JPEG?
One thing that PDFs allow you to do is notate using text on top of things, as well as some programs like Evernote. I know that myself and Alice Kane on staff have been using Evernote to organize our genealogical research. One thing that'll do is automatically do what's called OCR, so optical character recognition, and it'll make those records text searchable, so that's something that's really handy, as well as the ability to notate things and pair them in with the image itself. I find that to be particularly useful.
Great. We have a question about case sensitivity. Does case sensitivity matter in the fields?
To the best of my knowledge, the fields are not case sensitive.
Okay, great. Let's see, we have another question. The role of keywords in the advanced search form. Can you, you talked a little bit about that, but maybe you can expand on your explanation.
Well, with we do have those other 10 fields. We have name fields, geographic fields, data and category indicators. But there's oftentimes a lot of information that is going to be part of the record that doesn't necessarily fit into one of those. Maiden names. That very first example that we looked at, it was a marriage, and so it had information about the parents of the people who were being married, and so those are going to be those would not be accessible through any of the other fields because they're not the primary names on the record, nor are they geographical or chronological data. So the keyword field, as wide of an instrument as it is the best way to get to that information.
Great, and actually Brian Laurie Beaumont actually wrote in, and this is a really good point about saving your images as PDFs versus JPEGs. You can very easily merge PDFs into one file, so you don't have to kind of look at multiple JPEGs. You can have them merged into one document, so that's another great hint.
Yes, that's one definite advantage of PDFs, especially if you're looking at genealogies, because right now the saving and printing functions of the site are page by page. So there's no way at the moment to save it, say an entire article or entire sketch, and saving as PDF would allow you to get all the pages and then smash them back together, and so that you have one file that's easier to keep track of.
Great. Well, thanks for your questions. There are a lot of other questions that we didn't get to, but if you have a question about the website, you can write to webmaster@nehgs.org. As I mentioned at the start of this presentation, we are recording this webinar, so you can, if you missed something, you can review this, the video at a later date. I'll be posting it to our online learning center most likely tomorrow, hopefully, and you'll also get a link in the follow-up email to that video. We also have a new subject guide on our online learning center about using AmericanAncestors.org. So chances are your question is more fully explained there as well. And I'll also provide that link in that follow-up email. If you have a more detailed question about the specifics of your research, how to locate records or ancestors, or how to break down a genealogical brick wall, you may want to consider scheduling a consultation with one of our in-house experts or hiring our research services team. Information on these two services and how to contact them will also be included in that follow-up email. So a very important email that you'll be receiving in the next day or two. Finally, thank you again for joining us. As you leave the event, you'll have the opportunity to fill out a survey and give us your feedback. Any and all feedback is extremely helpful and will help to improve our future online programs, so I thank you in advance. If you'd like to access more how-to resources or learn about upcoming online and in-person educational programs, please visit our online learning center, AmericanAncestors.org/learning-center. I hope to see you at future webinars and online courses. Goodbye for now.